She wasn't supposed to glow when I touched her. At first I thought it was static, just a trick of the light, but then the air hummed and every hair on my body stood on end. Her eyes widened like I'd said something sacred, and before I could ask what was happening, she whispered one word that changed everything. Proposal. I swear, I only hugged her to be polite. But now the stars themselves won't stop following me. I met my new roommate on a rain-splashed Tuesday that smelled like wet cardboard and instant noodles. The agency had called her compatible, which sounded less like a roommate service and more like a dating app designed by a tax accountant. I was halfway through propping the door with my knee and wrestling a box labeled MISC, which, if we're honest, meant I didn't want to think about where this goes, when she stepped through the threshold, and the hallway light reacted to her like a shy star. She glowed, not like an LED billboard, but in delicate rivers, thin, pearly threads under her skin that traced from her cheekbones down her throat and vanished into the collar of a slate-gray jacket. They lit up and dimmed with her breathing in a slow tide. Her hair was dark and metallic, catching color that wasn't there. Her eyes were impossible, ringed with a second iris that flexed and shuddered like a camera. She carried a bag over one shoulder and an atmosphere of confident literalness the way some people carry perfume. "Julian West?" she asked. The syllables sat neatly in her mouth like she'd measured them before speaking. "That's me," I said, immediately dropping the box. It hit my shoe, and I made a noise that, in another context, could have been misinterpreted as an attempt at flirting. Yeah. You must be Navri Sidraelith of Glisa 12b, but you can call me Sidra. The Ileth is optional in casual settings." She extended a hand, then paused, calculating. "Do you prefer a clasp, a press, or a two-armed exchange?" "Ooh, handshake is great," I said. Clasp, we clasped. Her palm was warm, calloused in a pattern like a topographic map. The threads under her skin brightened briefly where our hands met, then smoothed to a buttery glow. "My lumens may react to contact," she said, almost apologetically. "Don't be alarmed. It's not contagious. I'll hold off on calling a hazmat." Dima smile flirted with one corner of her mouth and then went politely home. She stepped inside and looked around our little apartment as if she were scanning it with some internal instrument. Eyes tracing corners, vents, light switches. She put her bag down, smooth and deliberate. And I remembered I'd meant to clear off the coffee table, but had instead filled it with a chessboard of unopened mail. "I brought you rent," she said, pulling out a neat stack of cred sticks wrapped with a ribbon. A ribbon, and I cooked. "I read online that humans bond over carbohydrate plates." "You read right," I said, equal parts charmed and concerned. "But you didn't have to." "I insist. The recipe is primitive. Mac and cheese. It required a ruse and commitment." I tried to imagine her making a roux with those exact forearm sinews and failed. "I like commitment," I said, and then winced because that sentence had too many places to go. She tilted her head like a bird. "Noted." We ate at opposite ends of the table because chairs were still a theoretical concept in our living room. Her lumens flickered faintly when she tasted the mac. "It is efficient," she pronounced, which is how I've always hoped people would review my cooking-related activities. "I've never had pasta judged in volts," I said. "But I'll take it." She glanced up quickly, as if my humor were a meteor she wanted to catch and catalog. "Volts are not the unit," she said. Then, because she seemed to notice my face trying not to laugh, she added, "I understand you are teasing." That was a quip. "You quipped too," I said, "with the efficiency thing." "Unintentional," she said, and the glow under her cheekbones warmed like embarrassed headlights. We unpacked. She had a surprisingly normal number of possessions for someone from a planet I needed to Google. A stack of starred field notebooks, a set of silver cups that nested like moons, plant that looked like a jade bonsai until it breathed. "Be careful with the Olin plant," she said as I reached. "It is sensitive to gravitational changes and compliments. I will refrain from both." She nodded, perfectly serious. "That would be kind." By the time night properly unfolded over the city, the apartment looked less like a staging area and more like a place two weird people might actually sleep. I threw open the windows to swap cardboard atmosphere for crisp rain air. The carpet drank it up in a sigh. That's better, I said. Welcome home. She studied my face for a beat longer than was normal. I felt seen, and not in the social media way. In my language, she said softly, the closest phrase is hearth binding. Thank you for letting me share your hearth. Technically, you're paying for it, I said. But you're welcome. The lumens along her throat brightened again, a subtle pulse. She turned away, but there was a softness at the edges of her movements now, like ink bleeding into paper. The incident, that is how I labeled it later in my brain, capitalized and important, was a combination of clumsy furniture, cultural mismatch, and the universe having a sense of humor. I'd finally unearthed the couch from the earrings and arms of bubble wrap and was attempting to wedge it into place. She was reading through the lease, which she approached like a diplomat reading a ceasefire agreement. There was a paragraph about pets, a paragraph about subletting, and a paragraph about intimate conduct on premises, which the landlord defined with a zeal that said someone had made very specific mistakes here in the past. Do we need to initial next to the passionate section? She asked, literal and curious. I almost said only if you plan to passionately violate the dishwasher, but chose dignity. We initial everything. It's a human ritual of responsibility. She nodded solemnly. Understood. I bent to tug the couch a few centimeters left, lost my footing on an abandoned plastic sheet, and performed an interpretive dance inspired by ice physics. Sidra moved fast, faster than seems polite for something shaped like a person. 1 second she was across the room. The next she was at my shoulder, steadying me with a hand at my lower back. If you've ever touched a porcelain mug right out of the dishwasher, that was her temperature. Not hot enough to burn, just hot enough to make your pulse a very loud, very human instrument. Pay attention. Oh, she said quietly. Oh. I echoed, intelligent as a mailbox. Her lumens didn't just pulse. They bloomed. The delicate threads under her skin widened and brightened, unfurling like bioluminescent ferns. A faint, almost musical hum started in her chest, 2 notes that beat against each other until they braided into one. The air took on a scent I couldn't place at first. Rain on sun-heated stone. Pheromones, my brain suggested helpfully and late. You okay? I asked, which was generous because I was not okay. My heart had fled to my throat to beat a tattoo on my soft palate. She withdrew her hand as if I had become a live wire. The glow receded a little, then surged again, like a tide that had changed its mind. I miscalculated. When we touch with a palm at the spinal ridge, it can initiate a pre-bonding cascade. A what now? Pre-bonding cascade, she repeated briskly, but her second iris flickered, betraying jitters. It is a physiological response to perceived safety and compatible biology. It is harmless if moderated. Harmless, I said. That's your harmless face? I am maintaining composure, she said, which is exactly what you say right before you stop. The humming was louder now, a resonant purr that I could feel in my sternum like standing too close to a speaker. Okay, I said, palms up. Peace sign to the universe. How do we moderate? She took a breath, wrote a dissertation, and handed it to me with her eyes. We may see it require pressure at the thoracic cradle to stabilize the rhythm. A hold, 2 arms ideally, until it passes. A hug, I said. Yes, that is the word. She looked at me the way a starship looks at atmosphere, like it knew entry was risky but necessary. Her glow had gone from warm to sunset. The air smelled like clean stone and a hint of something electrical. My brain, which enjoys crisis as an excuse to confess personal trivia, chose that moment to remember something from my family's ridiculous old traditions. The way my colony grandparents used to talk about the 2-armed vow. Back on New Pangaea, where my parents were born, a formal proposal used to be made with an embrace, 2 arms around the other. Full chest contact, hold until breath synced. It was quaint, ceremonial, largely defunct. I'd only ever seen it at a wedding. My mother cried like it had been written in her bones. It would have been hilarious to think of that then, if my lungs hadn't been negotiating with the humming in the room. Okay, I said, softer. We can hug. I'll, do it politely. Politeness is appreciated, she said. And still, there was the ghost of humor. We stepped toward each other, awkwardly synchronized. I put my arms around her shoulders. She fit there like a secret, warm and sure, the heat of her bleeding through my shirt in slow spirals. The humming in her chest vibrated against my ribs. I could feel the fine micro-tremors of muscles I didn't have a name for. Her breath was slow, then faster, then slow again, sinking to mine by degrees. Is this sufficient pressure at the thoracic cradle? I asked into her hair, which smelled like rain and something sharp like pine learned to sing. Her voice when it came was a little lower. More, she said, then quickly, if comfortable. I tightened my arms. The glow under her skin flared, rippled, calmed. The humming softened, a cat choosing sleep. Her cheek pressed against my collarbone, and my own biology, not to be left out, released a flood of chest-aching tenderness I hadn't budgeted for this month. Thank you, she murmured. This usually passes in 73 seconds. Specific, I said. Love that for us. She made a sound that might have been a laugh if laughter were a chord. You quip under stress. I do my best work in crisis. We stood like that while the minutes put on disguises and tried to sneak past. I felt her cool second heartbeat, a thrumming thread, align with my own, and the strangest sense of rightness sidled up like an old friend. The antiquated memory of my grandparents' two-armed vow, whispered at the edge of thought, like a moth circling a porch light. I did not intend to propose to my new alien roommate on moving day. To be clear, I intended to be helpful and decent and marginally funny and to not drop the couch on my foot again. But as our breathing matched and her lumens pulsed to the slow drum we built together, the old ritual unfolded in my head like a paper flower in water. 73 seconds, I said, trying to count backward from a number that wouldn't hold still. Approximately, she breathed. And then the universe remembered it has comedic timing. A knock rattled the door, followed by my best friend's voice. Bright, human, and absolutely not informed by an interspecies pre-bonding cascade. Jules? You alive in there? I brought celebratory takeout and a plant I can't kill. Sidra's lumens flashed once, possessive lightning. The hum under my hand shifted, sharpened. She lifted her head, eyes narrowing, second iris contracting like a shutter about to snap. Somewhere deep in her chest, a note rose. Clear, clean, vibrating the air in warning. Who is that? She asked, very calm in the way a sea is calm before it stands up. That's Elle, I said, heart thundering. She's female, Sidra said clinically. Her lumens climbed from ember to sunrise. The scent in the room thickened like rain deciding to be a storm. And she is here, at our hearth. I swallowed. On the other side of the door, Ella juggled paper bags in oblivion. Jules? I'm counting to 5 and then I'm letting myself in because last time you tried to assemble a shelf alone and I had to call the fire department. Sidra's gaze cut to the door, then back to me. The humming rose a half-step the way a song does before it reaches its chorus. Should I, she said, earnest and fierce and glowing, display what? I whispered. My claim, she said simply. Elle's key scraped in the lock, and then Elle's key turned and the door swung inward on a gust of rain and sesame oil. And then you'll tell me you don't own bowls again, she called, backing in with takeout bags. I brought… Whoa. She saw us. To be fair, there was a lot to see. My arms were wrapped around a glowing alien woman who hummed like a content starship engine. We were very close. Close like whispering in a library close. Close like, if we were planets, the tides would ruin somebody's day. Ella blinked once. Twice. Jules, she said in the careful voice you use when your friend is holding a grenade labeled New Choices. I see you have… company. Sidra's lumens flared, a sunrise sprinting across her skin. She angled her, body slightly to keep my chest pressed to hers. Stabilization pressure, she'd said, but turned her head to look at Ella. The second iris tightened. The humming consolidated, a richer note. She wasn't quite bearing fangs. She didn't have any to bear, but if she had, we would have needed a bigger apartment. Our hearth is currently engaged in regulation, she said evenly. You may approach the threshold, but not the core. Elle glanced at me. Is that good? She mouthed. I tried for reassuring and achieved trapped otter. It's fine, I said aloud. We're, managing a pre-bonding cascade. Ella's eyebrows performed a double backflip and stuck the landing. You finally got a pet ferret. It's a physiological thing, I said, while my own physiology wrote fan mail to gravity. She needs pressure, a hug. Do not interrupt, Sidra added. He is providing crucial thoracic contact. Elle considered the sentence, the glow, my face. She set the takeout down very carefully beside the door, like it might explode if jostled. Okay, she said, bright with the kind of empathy that doubles as curiosity. Hi, I'm Ellie, Jules's friend. I am not a threat to your hearth. Sidra's gaze narrowed on the word friend like it was a ship transmitting false credentials. Define your intentions, she said, polite as a customs officer. My cue. Intentions are to feed him dumplings and bully him into owning bowls, Elle said cheerfully, and to meet his new roommate, I guess, which I am doing. Hello, you're luminous and powerful, and I respect that. Sidra's lumens paused, then softened a notch. Compliment accepted, with a footnote. I am Sidra, she said. I am also regulating. Noted, Elle said, and then her nose twitched. Why does it smell like a thunderstorm in here? Did you burn romance? It's my endocrine system, Sidra said, factual, which made Elle's grin go somewhere between delighted and, oh my God, tell me everything. The humming skipped, a small stutter. I felt it through my sternum like a drumbeat tripping on a stair. Sidra inhaled, slow and careful. Her skin was warmer, the glow shifting from soft gold toward a deeper copper, as if the light beneath had thickened. Is it passing? I murmured, angling my head so only she would hear. She kept her face toward Elle, body still bracketed in my arms. It is plateauing, she said. The presence of an unfamiliar adult female has altered the profile. Sorry, Ella said from 3 feet away, somehow hearing the vibe. I can go pretend to be a potted plant in the hallway. Speaking of, she lifted a ceramic pot with a fist-sized succulent and a label that read, I am hard to kill. Housewarming. I figured you could handle the don't water me instructions. Sidra's eyes slid to the plant. Is it armed? It's a Haworthia. Its weapon is low expectations. Sidra considered this. Acceptable. Humming dipped again, then rose higher than before, a pitch that brushed the edges of hearing. I felt Sidra's hands, which had been light on my back, seize in a fraction tighter, fingers pressing along my spine like notes on a scale. Heat rolled off her, not suffocating but present, like standing near a bread oven with ulterior motives. Jules, she said without looking at me, the cascade is entering a torsion phase. The standard hold may be insufficient. Torsion, I echoed, as if saying it would convince it to be reasonable. What's the upgraded hold? Her voice lowered by a shade. In cases of external challenge or environmental stressors, the stabilizing pair maintains thoracic contact and aligns pelvic axes to distribute the spiral. Translate, Elle said helpfully, leaning around the takeout bags, trying not to intrude but absolutely intruding with her eyes. She needs to sit closer, I said, cheeks heating. On me, kind of. Ella made a sound like a kettle finding its purpose. Carry on, she said, and actually turned around to face the wall like a saint. Sidra didn't wait for further human commentary. With the efficient precision of someone trained to assemble field beacons in a dust storm, she shifted, never breaking the chest contact, and slid into my lap. My hands moved instinctively to steady her, one at her back, the other anchoring at the curve of her waist. She was very warm. The glow rippled along her neck and collarbones in quick tides. The scent intensified, rain, stone, a hint of copper, and something sweet like crushed green leaves. Pressure? I asked, voice rough. Good, she breathed. Quiet triumph threaded through the word. Ella, facing the wall, muttered, I am looking at an entirely blank surface. I am seeing nothing. There is no romance behind me. Wow, the texture on this paint is really something. I swallowed a laugh, and the laugh became a breath that became the rhythm Sidra caught. The humming steadied, thrummed, settled into a chord I could feel all the way down to the meat of me. Her second iris fluttered, open, closed, a shudder trying to decide how much light to let in. Her hand splayed at my shoulders. I felt the precise pattern of her calluses again, those topographic ridges, as if she'd spent a life climbing alien cliffs. Better? I whispered. Better, she said, then visibly fought herself and added, Apologies to your friend, I am being territorial. I'm still not looking, Elle said, contrite and smug in equal parts. Also, I could remind you both that you have neighbors. Sidra considered that. The hum lowered a decibel, as if she'd turned the volume knob a fraction. Her lumens, however, did the opposite, unfurling in delicate filigree across the backs of her hands, trailing up her forearms, pinpricks of light-mapping veins, a celestial chart in skin. I couldn't look away. You're beautiful, I said, too honest to be smooth. She glanced at me finally. Her mouth softened, the line of it no longer military straight. Your compliments are gravitational, she said. They pull. Is that good? It is dangerous, she said. But her voice betrayed her. There was warmth in it that had nothing to do with biochemistry. Elle, still wall-staring, said, Not to step on your moment, but your dumplings are fogging up the plastic. If nobody eats them soon, they will attend 2 divorces and a midlife crisis. We will eat, Sidra said, then frowned as the humming hiccuped. Her fingers flexed on my shoulders. After the torsion completes. Does the torsion come with instructions? I asked. Her eyes flicked to my mouth and back up again so quickly I would have missed it if I hadn't been actively falling into every nuance of her. Sometimes a mouth seal can resolve lingering oscillations, she said clinically, and then flushed. Copper gold even as she tried to tuck the statement into a lab report. Elle bumped her forehead gently on the wall. I have lived to see the day Jules needs to kiss someone for medical reasons. It is not a kiss, Sidra said, faintly scandalized. It is a seal for breath harmonization and chemical sampling. Uh-huh, Ella said, and my Haworthia is a small, spiky accountant. I felt my heartbeat trying to negotiate a pay raise. The old family memory, the 2-armed vow, rose like a ghost to stand behind the word mouth seal and cough significantly. On New Pangaea, the seal came after the hug. The promise breathed into the other's lungs. Breath matching breath. A proposal sealed like envelopes used to be, with something warm and personal. I had not thought of it in years. Now it sat in my lap with a literal alien. Sidra, I said softly, my culture has a thing. I am listening, she said, chin lifting a degree. Warrior posture in a kitchen with no bowls. There's an old ritual, I said. A 2-armed hold, breath matching, and then, if you seal mouths, it's a proposal. An actual formal proposal. Not so common anymore, but it's a thing. If we do, that I don't want to accidentally promise you something you didn't mean to ask me for. She took this in. I could see it moving through her like light passing underwater. Distortion, refraction, comprehension. Her glow gentled. The hum softened into a body-deep purr. You propose by embracing, she said, tasting each syllable like it was fruit she'd never eaten. And sealing. You bind your breath to theirs. Yeah, I said, suddenly aware of how little air was in the room. It's symbolic, beautiful, terrifying. She looked down at my hands, one at her back, one at her waist, and then at my face. We are from places that rhyme, she said, very quiet. Elle made a soft, involuntary sound. She wasn't looking at the wall anymore, Sidra continued. Clinical bravado betrayed by trembling lumens. Where I'm from, during regulation, if an external party arrives, the stabilizing pair may initiate a display and perform a ward to indicate provisional claim. It discourages interference. The ward can be a light pattern, or it can be a mouth seal. She hesitated. It is not a marriage. It is a warning to predators and a courtesy to allies. Says this one is with me this night. I exhaled. The world popped back into focus like a lens had been wiped. Okay, I said. A ward, not a marriage. Not a proposal. My heart nodded along, unpersuaded. Elle cleared her throat. As the designated ally delivering dumplings, I feel warded. Also, I am going to set these on the counter and then put in earplugs made of pure respect. Sidra didn't move. Her gaze had settled on my mouth again, with the earnestness of someone reading instructions for a device that might explode. The humming wavered, small, pleading. Her temperature climbed another notch. Heat seeped through fabric, through me. The scent in the room deepened until I could almost taste it, a mineral sweetness on my tongue. "Jules," she said, and my name in her mouth felt like a promise had already been made. "Do I have your permission to apply a ward?" I swallowed, choked on the idea that this was a quick fix, found my voice rowdy and alive. "Yes," I said, "if it helps you, if it's what you want." "It is," she said. And for the first time since she'd stepped into my apartment, Sidra looked shy. The lumens along her cheeks wove a pattern I hadn't seen, delicate loops like handwriting. "It is what I want." Elle, who was definitely not looking, said to the succulent, "Buddy, this is it. This is the moment we were potted for." Sidra's hands lifted to my jaw, light and precise. Her thumbs traced the hinge like she was cataloging the species of my bones. The hum drew in, focused, the way a sound does right before it breaks into song. She leaned forward, slow enough for me to stop her, sure enough that I did not. Her lips hovered a breath from mine. Heat eddied between us, bright as a sunrise behind closed eyes. The humming aligned with my heartbeat until I could no longer tell which was telling the other what to do. "Begin ward," she whispered. And then, the first contact of her mouth wasn't a kiss in the human sense. It was warmth, light, and something faintly electric, like touching your tongue to the edge of a battery made of starlight. The hum between us deepened, threading through my ribs, syncing our heartbeats until my own pulse tripped over itself to follow hers. The lumens beneath Sidra's skin bloomed, tracing rivers of light across her face, down her neck, and along the curve of her shoulders. The room dimmed, yet she brightened, as if all the electricity in the building had decided to live inside her. The scent of rain and ozone thickened, and for one dizzy moment I forgot where my body ended and hers began. She broke the contact first, breath unsteady, her eyes glowing with twin-ringed intensity. "Regulation." "Complete," she murmured. Her voice trembled like the last ripple on a pond. "Complete?" I said, half-dazed. "Are you sure?" "Because it feels like something started." She tilted her head, confused and flushed. "Your humor returns quickly, that is relieving." Behind us, Ellie's voice broke the spell like a car alarm at a funeral. "Are you two done vibrating the furniture?" "My dumplings are going through emotional trauma." Sidra turned her glowing face toward her, and Ellie, ever the fearless human, raised both hands in surrender. "I'm just saying. They've seen things." Sidra blinked once, glow fading from fierce to gentle. "Apologies. Your presence triggered my instincts. I did not intend to vibrate furniture. I mean, as long as you clean up after," Elle said, pretending to inspect her plant. I exhaled, still holding Sidra's waist. My hands felt reluctant to let go, as if they had their own gravitational agenda. "So, no more torsion? No more humming? No glowing crisis?" Sidra pressed 2 fingers to her throat, checking an invisible pulse. "The rhythm has stabilized." However, her gaze dropped to my chest, where her lumens had faintly imprinted their light on my shirt. "The bond trace remains." "Bond trace?" I echoed, looking down. There was a faint shimmer on my skin, like dusted gold beneath the fabric. Elle, of course, leaned in with the casual curiosity of a scientist at a soap opera. "So, does that mean they're dating now? Or did you just give him space cooties?" Sidra's expression flickered between alarm and pride. "He carries a partial resonance signature. It will fade in several cycles." "How many cycles?" I asked. "Approximately 12, she said. "Of your days, 12 days? Elle grinned. "So for 12 days, you're basically glowing soulmates." Sidra straightened. "The term soulmate is inaccurate. The bond only ensures biological compatibility and limited telepathic empathy." "Limited what now?" I blurted. "Empathy," she said, calm as if explaining the weather. "You may perceive fragments of my emotional state. Heat, pulse changes, mood shifts. It will assist with continued regulation." "Continued?" I said. "There's more of this?" She hesitated. "The initial cascade often triggers follow-up fluctuations. I will attempt to manage them privately." Elle clapped her hands. Translation. You two are going to be making googly eyes at each other for the next 2 weeks. I love this for you. Sidra looked at her deadpan. Humans employ googly eyes to indicate attraction. Elle grinned. Exactly. Welcome to Earth. Sidra absorbed that, then turned back to me. I am sorry. For the incident? You're sorry for what? I said. You just saved yourself from, what did you call it, biological torsion meltdown. And I got a light show and partial telepathy. That's not even a bad Tuesday. Her glow softened, and for the first time since we met, she smiled without reservation. You adapt well, Julian West. Comes with the rent, I said, smiling back. Elle coughed theatrically. Okay, you two. I'm leaving before the apartment turns into a Hallmark movie. Jules, call me if your chest starts glowing again or if she proposes to you in binary. Sidra blinked. Binary? Don't ask, I said quickly. Elle winked, grabbed her damp umbrella and escaped into the hall, humming something that sounded suspiciously like a wedding march. When the door clicked shut, the silence that followed was thick, warm, alive. Sidra exhaled, her lumens dimming to a faint glow. Your friend is spirited. I approve of her defense of our hearth, though her humor is dangerous. Yeah, I said, rubbing the back of my neck. She's like a human caffeine molecule. You just get used to it. We stood there, awkwardly domestic amid the faint glow of rain light and cooling dumplings. My heartbeat was still sinking itself to hers in slow waves. Finally, I said, So, that ward thing we did. Just to clarify, no permanent galactic marriage paperwork, right? Her second iris dilated, then settled. No legal union. But culturally... Culturally what? She hesitated, glancing at her hands. In Galician custom, a ward formed with physical resonance is considered an intent bond. It indicates mutual guardianship until both parties formally release the connection. Guardianship, I repeated. As in, she said softly. You are now regarded by my people as someone under my protection. And I, under yours, I stared. So basically we're engaged in provisional partnership, she said. Entirely too calm for someone who had just announced we were basically space fiancés. I blinked at her, speechless for a beat. Wow, you know I've been on worse first days as roommates. Her laugh, a soft crystalline sound, spilled into the air. The lumens on her skin shimmered in rhythm with it, scattering light like ripples in a pond. You are strange, Julian West, she said, but kind. Strange and kind, I said, shrugging. I can live with that. She tilted her head, studying me. I believe I can too. The glow faded at last, leaving her skin its pale, opalescent hue. She reached for the takeout bag and offered it with both hands, formal and sweet. Would you share these dumplings, co-guardian? I smiled, accepting them. I'd be honored, provisional partner. We ate side by side on the couch, her light now a faint halo in the dim room. The storm outside had passed, leaving the air washed and clean. Halfway through our meal, I realized my chest still carried that faint golden shimmer, and that, every so often, I could feel her heartbeat echo softly against my own. Like a faraway star I'd somehow been tethered to. I didn't know what it meant yet, but for the first time in a long time, the unknown didn't scare me. It just felt warm, and somewhere in the back of my mind I could almost hear her voice, not through words, but through that shared rhythm. Whispering like a secret only we could understand. Our hearth holds. I smiled into my dumpling, my heart quietly answering back, yeah, it does. The morning after the incident, I woke to the faint hum of energy and the undeniable feeling that someone else's heartbeat was napping in my chest. At first, I thought it was my coffee maker. The poor thing had survived 3 moves and sounded like an asthmatic robot on good days. But then I felt it again. Badum, soft, slow, not mine, Sidra's. I groaned, dragging myself out of bed. The apartment was quiet except for the rain against the windows, and a faint melodic vibration in the air, like a cat purring from another dimension. When I padded into the kitchen, she was already there, sitting cross-legged on the counter, a mug of something bright blue in her hands. Her lumens glowed faintly in the dim light, tracing patterns along her bare arms. She looked like a sunrise that hadn't decided whether to happen yet. Good morning, she said. You are resonating unusually early. I could say the same, I said, blinking sleep from my eyes. Do all Glesians hum before breakfast? It is not humming, she said with mild dignity. It's a post-regulation equilibrium chant. It keeps the bond from fracturing. Right, I said, pouring myself coffee. Wouldn't want to fracture my… What did you call it? Partial resonance signature? Her gaze flickered up, amused. You remembered the term. I had a glowing reminder, I said, tugging at my shirt where the faint shimmer still lingered. She hopped down from the counter with the effortless grace of someone who never stubbed a toe. It will fade, she said softly. But until it does, I am attuned to you. Attuned, I repeated. Meaning? Her lips curved, almost shy. I can sense when you are distressed, or amused, or when your pulse accelerates. Convenient, I muttered. You'll know exactly when you're winning an argument. I already do, she said, smiling. Your lumens, apologies, your face changes color. I nearly choked on my coffee. Humans don't have lumens. Then it must be blood, she said, nodding thoughtfully. It is a very expressive system. I couldn't help it, I laughed. And she laughed too, the sound pure and alien and beautiful. For a moment our shared rhythm pulsed between us again, and the air seemed to hum with quiet satisfaction. That's when my communicator buzzed. Julian West? Came the brisk voice of my supervisor from the Interplanetary Outreach Department. You're late for the debriefing. Your new roommate's residency documents need verification before noon. My stomach sank. On it, I said quickly. Sidra watched me with calm interest. Is there a problem? Only if bureaucracy counts, I said. I've got to go sign off your arrival paperwork before my boss decides I've smuggled in an unregistered cosmic princess. I am not a princess, she said automatically. Though I was trained in diplomatic customs. I paused, looking at her sideways. Of course you were. 2 hours later, we were standing in the gleaming white lobby of the Interplanetary Relations Bureau, an architectural shrine to overthinking. Every surface gleamed. Every corridor hummed with the antiseptic scent of recycled air and over-politeness. The receptionist, a pale android with perfect posture, looked from me to Sidra and blinked twice. Species designation, please. Glesian, Sidra said smoothly. Designation Sidra Eleth, Hearthbound. I froze mid-step. Wait, Hearthbound? The android's eyes brightened with bureaucratic delight. Hearthbound? As in bonded? Please confirm. Is this a legal partnership? Sidra blinked. It is provisional. The android beamed. Congratulations. Your documentation will be merged under Cohabitation Law Code 47A. Wait, what? I said, hands up. We're not married. Not yet, the android said pleasantly. But you have 12 cycles of recognized hearth protection rights. Sidra looked mildly pleased. That is efficient. Efficient, I hissed. That's interstellar bureaucracy calling us a couple. Your species proposed with a hug, she said evenly. Efficiency seems mutual, I groaned. This is not how proposals are supposed to go. Neither is spontaneous interspecies resonance, she said. Touché. The android handed us a glowing tablet with our Hearthbound registration code printed across the top in gold. I caught my reflection in the polished counter, rumpled, red-eared, standing next to a glowing alien who looked like she'd just won a diplomatic war with a smile. You're enjoying this, I muttered. Immensely, she admitted. By the time we got home, the rain had stopped, leaving sunlight slanting across the city. The glow from her lumens caught it, scattering soft reflections across the ceiling like tiny constellations. So, I said, dropping onto the couch, we're officially, accidentally, interplanetary cohabitants with legal hearth-sharing privileges. Correct, she said, settling beside me. You may now claim diplomatic immunity in 3 sectors. I blinked. Wait, really? No, she said, deadpan. I laughed again, the sound echoing in the quiet. You're getting better at jokes. I am studying your humor, she said proudly. It is like gravity. Sometimes it pulls, sometimes it makes you fall. Her hand brushed mine, a feather-light touch. The lumens under her skin responded, glowing brighter where we connected. The hum returned, soft, steady, intimate, still stabilizing. I asked. She shook her head. No, this is something else. An echo of the ward. Echo? When two beings share resonance, they remain partially linked, she said, her voice quiet. If one feels warmth, the other may feel comfort. If one feels fear, the other knows it. The bond remembers. I met her gaze, my chest tightening. So what are we now, Sidra? She smiled faintly, her second iris contracting like a camera focusing on me. We are learning. The air between us vibrated with the weight of everything unspoken. I reached out, brushing a strand of her metallic hair behind her ear. The touch was small, but it sent a shimmer down her neck, the glow pulsing once like a heartbeat. Learning, I echoed softly. She tilted her head, eyes warm. Do you regret the hug? I thought about it, the awkwardness. The humming, the bureaucracy, Elle's teasing. The way my heart now carried a pulse that wasn't only mine. Not even a little, I said. Her smile deepened, and the faint hum between us rose like a heartbeat finding harmony. Outside, the city glowed in reflection. Two worlds slowly learning to share a sky. And somewhere in the back of my mind, that quiet voice, the one that wasn't quite mine, whispered again, "Our hearth holds." And this time, I didn't just smile, I believed it. By day 3, I'd stopped pretending that the hum I felt in my chest was just my imagination. It wasn't tinnitus, it wasn't caffeine, and it definitely wasn't stress. It was Sidra, and I could feel her everywhere. When she laughed, the sound seemed to light up behind my ribs. When she concentrated, I could sense a quiet focus pulsing in the base of my skull. And when she brushed against my shoulder as she passed me in the kitchen, a wave of soft, golden warmth rippled under my skin like sunlight through honey. It wasn't unpleasant. It was, if I'm being honest, dangerously addictive. On the morning of the 3rd day, I found her on the balcony, standing barefoot in the pale dawn. The city was quiet beneath us, the skyline dusted with mist. Her lumens shimmered faintly under her skin, matching the rhythm of the sunrise. She was humming again. No words, just a low, resonant tone that made the railing vibrate. I leaned against the doorway, trying not to disturb her. Is that a song? Her head tilted, the glow around her cheekbones pulsing faintly. A calibration hymn. My people sing it when a bond begins to echo too loudly. Too loudly, I asked, stepping closer. You mean me? She turned toward me, expression soft but cautious. Our resonance is strengthening, Julian. It happens when two fields remain in close proximity for long periods. Usually, both parties participate willingly. Usually, I repeated, raising a brow. You make it sound like I accidentally subscribed to an emotional Wi-Fi plan. Her lips quirked. An apt metaphor. The more we share space, the stronger the signal becomes. I crossed my arms, pretending to think. So what's the fix? Airplane mode? She smiled, small, secret, glowing. Or synchronization. The word hung between us like a spark. Before I could ask what she meant, the air shifted. The hum deepened, rolling through the floor like the purr of an engine. The faint gold shimmer on my chest flared, and I felt her heartbeat slam into mine, perfectly aligned. My breath hitched. Sidra, I said quietly. Is that supposed to happen? Her pupils dilated, both irises flickering with light. It's early. Early for what? Full resonance. She said it like a confession, as if the words themselves might collapse the morning light. It means the bond is stabilizing permanently. The more we resist it, the more it demands equilibrium. Equilibrium, I said. You mean proximity, she said. Contact, trust. There was a tremor in her voice now, and I realized the hum wasn't just in me. It was in her, too. Her skin was brighter, her breathing uneven. Okay, I said slowly. What do? We synchronize, she said, barely audible. It will pass after alignment. I stepped closer. How? Her eyes flicked down, then back up to mine. With touch, I swallowed. Of course. The moment stretched. She took one cautious step forward, then another, until the distance between us was thin as a sigh. The city outside faded to blur. All I could hear was the rhythm of her breathing and the steady drum of our twin heartbeats. Julian, she said softly, when we complete synchronization, we will see as one for a moment. Do not be afraid, I smiled faintly. Afraid? I'm barely holding it together as it is. Her hand rose, hovering near my face. Then hold. When her palm touched my cheek, the hum became sound, music vibrating through air and bone. The glow from her skin poured into mine. threads of light racing across my arms like veins made of sunrise. The connection hit me like a pulse of gravity. I could feel her, not just her warmth, but her thoughts, her awe, the faint nervous joy tangled with something deeper. She felt it too. Her breath caught, her lumens flaring in brilliant waves. "You're bright," she whispered, voice trembling. "Bright?" I echoed, dizzy. "In here." She pressed her hand to my chest. "Your spirit burns like an open flame." I laughed, dazed. That's probably just caffeine and panic. Her laugh joined mine, but it turned into a gasp as another wave of resonance hit. The glow between us intensified until the entire room shimmered like it had been submerged underwater. And then everything slowed. My breath, her heartbeat, the morning light filtering through the windows. For one impossible second, I saw what she saw, not with eyes, but through that shared rhythm, that pulse of connection. I saw her memories not as pictures, but as feelings. The vast blue plains of her homeworld under two suns. The weight of solitude between the stars. The ache of leaving it behind. And she saw me. I knew it because she whispered, awestruck. "You carry your whole world in your heart." The bond reached its peak. An explosion of warmth and light that seemed to fold the air around us. Then it softened, settling like the last note of a song. We stood there, breathless, hands still pressed against each other's hearts. The glow dimmed, but the warmth didn't fade. "It's done," she murmured. "The resonance has risen and stabilized." I blinked. "Meaning?" "Meaning," she said, smiling softly. "We will always feel each other. Even apart." I let out a long breath, trying to process what that meant. "That's a lot," she tilted her head. "Does it trouble you?" I met her gaze and shook my head slowly. "No, just new." Her smile deepened. "New can be beautiful," I didn't argue. Not with the way she looked just then. Light dimming to soft gold, eyes reflecting 1,000 silent stories. We stood there for a long while, watching the city wake beneath us. "Julian," she said at last, voice quiet but certain. "When I first arrived, I did not expect to find harmony here. Your species, your world feels chaotic, but you resonate." "I'm flattered," I said, grinning. "And mildly terrified." She laughed, a clear, bright sound that made my heart answer in rhythm. "Good," she said. "Terror keeps the heart awake." We turned toward the morning together, the hum between us now a quiet, steady pulse. And somewhere deep inside that shared rhythm, I could feel her thought brushing mine like the whisper of wind through light. Our hearth grows, and I knew somehow that she was right. This wasn't just an accident anymore. It was the beginning of something vast, something that hummed like a promise between stars. There's something strange about knowing that another heartbeat lives inside you. Even when Cedra wasn't in the room, I could feel her, a soft, steady rhythm under my own. Like the universe had decided I needed background music. By the fourth day, we'd stopped pretending that the bond was something we could ignore. Every touch, accidental or otherwise, sent ripples of warmth through us. Every time one of us laughed, the other smiled without knowing why. It was equal parts miraculous and unnerving, and honestly, a little intoxicating. That morning I found her sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by floating spheres of light. They hovered around her like planets orbiting in slow rhythm. The air hummed with that low, melodic vibration that seemed to come from somewhere beneath reality itself. "You've started your day early," I said, stepping carefully between the drifting lights. "Resonance meditation," she replied, eyes still closed. "Our bond reached a harmonic peak last night. I must learn to shape the energy before it becomes disruptive." "Disruptive how?" Her lips quirked faintly. If not balanced, it could cause emotional crossfire. "For example, if you feel anger, I might discharge heat. If I feel affection, you might faint." I blinked. "So basically, you're saying that if we're not careful, I could literally pass out from how you feel about me." She opened one eye, glowing faintly. "If you choose to phrase it that way." "Noted," I said. "I'll keep the defibrillator handy." The corners of her mouth twitched, and I felt a pulse of amusement bloom inside my chest. Hers and mine overlapping. "Julian," she said softly, "your humor continues to stabilize my temperature. I believe it's therapeutic." "Glad I can be your personal mood ring," I said. Do you always tell your roommates when they double as emotional regulators? She stood, graceful and deliberate, the orbiting lights fading into nothing. You misunderstand. You are not simply regulating me. The resonance works both ways, I frowned. Meaning? Her expression softened. Meaning you are steadier. Since the bond, I paused. It was true. The chronic restlessness that usually lived behind my ribs had quieted since she'd arrived. My thoughts felt anchored. She took a cautious step closer. Your mind hums less. Your body sleeps deeper. Your aura— My what? Your aura, she repeated patiently. It no longer flickers like static, it hums. Like me? I ran a hand through my hair, laughing nervously. You realize that makes me sound like a therapy lamp. Her glow warmed, faint and affectionate. A very comforting one. That shouldn't have made my chest feel so full, but it did. Before I could reply, the apartment lights flickered. The hum between us trembled, then deepened, the air vibrating with invisible tension. Sydra's eyes widened. The resonance is peaking again, she said quickly. Something outside is amplifying it. Outside, a shuttle roared past the skyline, trailing blue light. The pulse in my chest synced with its engine thrums. Faster, louder. My knees went weak. Sydra reached for me immediately, catching my arm. Focus, breathe with me. I nodded, trying to match her rhythm. The hum responded, vibrating between our chests like a living thing. My skin tingled. Hers glowed brighter, light spilling across her collarbones in liquid gold. Something's wrong, I managed. It's stronger than before. Her voice trembled. The field is expanding beyond our control. The Bureau must have detected our signature. They're scanning. Scanning us? They can feel the pulse between worlds, she said, her grip tightening. If they pinpoint it, they'll separate us. They won't understand what this connection means. My heart skipped. Then how do we stop them from detecting it? Her gaze met mine, sharp, luminous, desperate. We can't stop it. The hum rose, filling the room with vibrating gold. My vision blurred, and for a heartbeat, I saw everything. The pulse of the city, the rhythm of the stars, the invisible thread connecting us like a beam of living light stretching across galaxies. Then she whispered, "We can only hide it." How? I gasped. By deepening it, she said. If we synchronize completely, the resonance will fold into one field. They'll read it as background radiation, I stared. You mean make it stronger to make it invisible? Yes, and that involves— She hesitated, then reached for both my hands. Total alignment. The look in her eyes said it all. The last time she'd done this, it hadn't been casual. Will it hurt? I asked. Only if you resist, I swallowed hard. And if I don't? Then you'll see as I see. She stepped closer, the glow between us intensifying. Julian West, she said quietly. Do I have your consent? I nodded. Always. The air trembled and our fingers interlaced. The hum deepened into a resonant chord that shook the floor. Light spiraled outward, threads weaving between us like golden DNA. For one dizzying moment, the world folded, our minds, our breaths, our senses all fusing into one. And then I was her. I felt the dual suns of Gliesa 12b on my skin, tasted the sweet metal tang of her planet's air. I saw her first voyage through the void, her fear of silence, her awe at the sight of Earth's pale blue light. I felt her curiosity about humans, her wonder at laughter, her confusion at loneliness, and through it all, through every memory, every fear, I felt her heartbeat searching for mine. When I came back to myself, she was crying softly. Golden tears glowed against her cheeks. It's hidden, she whispered. They can't see us now. I reached up, wiping her tears with my thumb. Are you okay? Her voice shook. You saw my world. Yeah, I said, throat tight. It was beautiful. She pressed her forehead to mine. So is yours. The hum between us faded to a quiet pulse. The lights outside steadied. The danger passed, but neither of us moved. Julian, she said softly, our connection is no longer temporary. The pulse has settled between worlds. What does that mean for us? Her eyes met mine, glowing faintly. It means wherever you go, I will feel your heartbeat. And when you dream, I may dream too, I smiled weakly. That sounds a lot like forever, she hesitated. In Glesian terms, yes, I laughed softly, resting my forehead against hers. Guess I really did propose after all. She exhaled a trembling laugh. and I accepted. Outside, dawn broke again, washing the city in soft gold. 2 heartbeats pulsed in unison. One human, one alien, woven into a rhythm that no galaxy scanner could ever untangle. Between us, the bond hummed like a promise kept. The day after the resonance surge, the world felt quieter, not in the absence of sound kind of way, but in the too still before a storm kind of way. The hum that had filled the air since Sidra arrived was softer now, steady, deep content. It was no longer 2 rhythms fighting for space. It was one. I stood in the kitchen, staring into my coffee like it might give me answers about how to live with an alien soulmate accidentally acquired through polite hugging. Sidra appeared in the doorway, her glow faint against the morning light. She'd taken to wearing human clothes, a loose white shirt that caught the glow from her skin, and soft gray trousers that made her look effortlessly regal. She carried herself like gravity had rules just for her. "You didn't sleep," she said quietly. "I tried," I said, smiling wearily, "but someone's heartbeat kept me awake." Her lips twitched. "Yours or mine?" "Good question," I said. "At this point, I'm not sure we can tell the difference." She crossed the room, each step measured, her glow pulsing faintly. "Our connection stabilizes when we rest near each other." "Separation causes interference," I raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying we need to share a bed for scientific reasons?" She blinked, perfectly literal. "Precisely," I choked on my coffee. "Right, science." Her confusion deepened until she caught the human sarcasm in my grin. "You tease me again," she said, a small smile forming. "Your humor continues to disarm." "Glad it's working," I said. Sidra moved to the counter and picked up one of the blue glowing mugs she liked. "Julian," she said softly, her tone shifting, "our bond has stabilized across the harmonic spectrum, but it is drawing attention. From the Bureau? From beyond." She gestured toward the window. Outside, faint streaks of light shimmered across the distant clouds, unnatural, deliberate. "Gleesian envoys," she said. "They must have tracked my signature. When they sense the resonance pattern, they will come to retrieve me." The words dropped like stones into the silence. "Retrieve you?" I echoed. "As in, take you back?" Her glow dimmed. "If they learn that our fields have merged, they may view it as contamination. Our bond breaks protocol. It's forbidden to link permanently with another species." I stared at her, pulse hammering. "Then we'll tell them it was an accident." Her expression softened with quiet sadness. "On Gliesa 12b, there are no accidents. Only choices." She turned toward the window, the light from her skin reflecting faintly on the glass. "They will want to dissolve the bond. The idea of losing that hum, the warmth, the connection, her hit like a punch to the ribs. What happens if they try? If they succeed," she said, her voice barely audible, "we will forget. The bond will erase itself from both our memories. The resonance, the warmth, everything. You will wake up and feel lighter." But empty, my chest went cold. "No?" She turned, startled by the force in my voice. "No," I repeated. "I don't want to forget you, Sidra. I don't care if they call it forbidden or unnatural. You're the best accident I've ever had." Her eyes widened, her glow flickering with emotion. "Julian," I took her hands, warm and pulsing with faint light. "You told me our worlds rhyme, remember? Maybe this," I gestured between us, "is the verse that ties them together." For a heartbeat, she said nothing. The hum between us swelled, the room pulsing with light. Then she exhaled shakily, pressing her forehead to mine. "You are reckless," she whispered. "Maybe," I said. "But so are supernovas, and nobody tells them to calm down." She laughed, soft, bright, and a little broken. The glow beneath her skin rippled like sunlight on water. "I do not wish to forget either," she said at last. "But if they find us, they will not ask. Then we'll run," I said. "Hide whatever it takes." Her brows furrowed. "You would abandon your world for this bond." I smiled faintly. "You already did for yours." For a long moment, she just looked at me. Then she stepped closer until our chests nearly touched. "Julian West," she said, her voice trembling. "You have altered my gravitational constant." "That sounds like a compliment," I said, smiling. "It is the highest one," she said. The air between us shimmered again, the hum rising, warm and low. It wasn't wild this time, it was steady, like a heartbeat that had finally found peace. But peace, it seemed, wasn't meant to last. A sound tore through the morning, a low metallic boom that rattled the glass. I spun toward the window. 3 ships hung in the sky like silver crescents, their surfaces alive with blue light. Sidra inhaled sharply. "They've come," my pulse spiked. "Then let's go Before I could finish, a beam of soft light lanced through the window, scattering glass and dust into the air. It wasn't heat, it was gravity. The air thickened, pulling at us gently but insistently, as if the universe itself wanted to reclaim her. Her glow intensified. "Julian," she called, reaching for me as the pull increased. "They're locking onto the resonance field." I grabbed her hand, anchoring her against the pull. "I'm not letting go." "You must," she said, eyes bright with fear. "If they take both of us, you'll be trapped between worlds. Then I'll take my chances." I shouted over the rising hum. "I'm not losing you again." Her fingers tightened painfully around mine. "Julian, please." And then something in the bond surged. The golden shimmer along our arms flared to blinding light, forming a barrier between us and the beam. The pull weakened, and the ships above flickered uncertainly, their scanning fields destabilized by the interference. Sidra stared at our joined hands, awe and disbelief in her eyes. "The bond, it's protecting us." The hum deepened, reverberating through the walls, the air, our hearts. I felt it, not just as sound but as certainty. Whatever laws her world had written, whatever protocols her people followed, the gravity between us was stronger. The light faded, leaving only the sound of our breathing and the steady rhythm of 2 hearts, human and Glecian, beating as one. Sidra pressed her forehead to mine, whispering, "We cannot hide forever." "Then we don't," I said. "We stand together." Her eyes glowed like twin suns. "Together, then, until the stars forget their own names." Outside, the ships withdrew into the clouds, their light dimming. Inside, the hum softened to a slow, steady pulse, a promise that neither of us would yield to the gravity of anything but each other. And as the morning light broke through the shattered window, painting her face in gold, I realized something simple and terrifying and beautiful. This was love. Across species, across stars, across every impossible rule in the book. And for the first time in my life, I didn't want to run from it, I wanted to orbit it. The days that followed blurred into something I could only describe as beautiful chaos. The Bureau stopped calling. The sky stayed quiet. The Glecian ships never returned, but Sidra didn't relax. She moved through the apartment like a lit candle in a windstorm, her glow dimming and brightening with thoughts she didn't share. At night, I'd feel her heartbeat thrumming faintly through my chest, steady, warm, protective. The bond had become something constant, like gravity, or the sound of rain. It didn't intrude. It simply was. Still, I could feel her worry echoing through it, faint and sharp. "They will come again," she said one evening as we sat on the balcony. The city lights shimmered below, human stars flickering in the mist. "My people don't accept anomalies. They will want to correct what we've become." I looked at her, at the delicate silver of her hair, the gold beneath her skin, the quiet courage in her voice, and said, "Then they'll have to go through both of us." She smiled sadly. "You speak like a soldier, more like someone who's run out of reasons to be afraid." She turned her gaze skyward, to where her homeworld would have been visible beyond the daylight. When Glecians bond, our hearts sync to a shared rhythm. If one crosses the veil of death, the other hears the silence. I reached for her hand. "Then I'll just have to make sure neither of us stops beating." Her fingers twined with mine, glowing faintly where our skin met. The warmth between us pulsed once, twice, like the echo of a promise made long ago. For a while, we didn't speak. The city hummed below. Somewhere, a shuttle's lights blinked red against the fading dusk. Then Sidra said softly, "Do you ever wonder what will happen if time forgets us?" "Time's got a bad memory," I said. "But stars? Stars remember everything." Her smile returned, real this time, soft as dawn. "Then let the stars remember us." That night, the hum of our shared heartbeat filled the quiet like a lullaby. I fell asleep with her beside me, her glow faint and steady, casting constellations on the walls, and I dreamed. In the dream, I saw Gliesa 12b, a world bathed in blue light, endless fields of silver grass under twin suns. I saw Sidra as a child, tracing lumens on her wrist to make them glow. I saw her first voyage, her first step onto Earth's soil, her cautious wonder at the chaos of humans. Then I saw myself, awkward, lonely, laughing too loud, and how she'd watched that laughter like a puzzle she wanted to solve. When I woke, she was still there, leaning against the window, the dawn catching the gold in her eyes. "You saw my world," she said quietly. "I did," I whispered. "And you saw mine," she nodded. "Two hearts across galaxies. Two rhythms made one." "Yeah," I said, smiling. "The universe has a weird sense of humor. Or maybe it is kind," she said. "Maybe it knows that love is the strongest gravity." Her words hung in the air, simple, true, infinite. We stood together watching the first light spill across the city. And for once, neither of us felt out of place. Whatever came next, envoys, storms, or silence, the bond would hold. Because sometimes, even when galaxies drift apart, something remains. A pulse, a promise, a memory written in light. And if the stars were watching, and I think they were, then somewhere out there they were already whispering our story. A human who hugged an alien to be polite. And an alien who didn't know that's how his species proposes. And somehow, against every law of heaven and physics, it worked. For almost a week after that dawn, life did its best to pretend it was ordinary. We cooked breakfast. We argued about whether dish soap was a suitable laundry substitute. It wasn't. We laughed until my ribs hurt. But behind every moment was that shared hum, the heartbeat that didn't belong to either of us alone anymore. It was comfort and warning and promise all at once. Sidra spent hours at the window, studying the sky as if she could read fate written between clouds. Her glow was softer now, less like a beacon, more like memory. "They're still searching," she said one morning. "Not here, not yet. But I feel the scanning waves grazing the outer atmosphere." "You can sense them?" I asked. She nodded. "They hum out of tune. I always hear what doesn't belong." I came to stand beside her. "So what happens if they find you?" Her jaw tightened. "Then they'll offer two choices. Return for purification or face exile. Either way, the bond would be cut." "Not happening," I said immediately. Her eyes found mine, soft but firm. "Julian, my world is built on balance. They will not understand a tether that crosses species. To them, this connection is miraculous," I said. "Dangerous," she corrected gently. "Maybe those are the same thing," I said. Her glow flickered. A ripple of emotion passing through her like starlight over water. "You speak like someone who's never lost a world." "Maybe I just found one worth keeping," I said quietly. That stopped her. For a long heartbeat, she said nothing. Then she stepped closer, her hand coming to rest over my chest. The hum rose instantly, that shared pulse syncing with the sound of rain outside. "You make gravity feel like choice," she whispered. "And you make choice feel like destiny," I said. We stayed like that for a while. No words. Just the rhythm of two hearts and the faint scent of ozone. Then, without warning, the lights in the apartment flickered. The hum spiked. Zidra's glow flared bright enough to paint the walls in gold. "They've locked on again," she said sharply. A deep scan. "They'll breach soon. What do we do?" I asked, adrenaline rising. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "There's only one way to hide the bond now. We can't diminish it, but we can spread it." "Spread it?" She looked at me with a mixture of fear and resolve. "If we release the resonance into the atmosphere, it will dissipate. They'll lose the signal, but we'll lose the bond." I froze. "You mean, we'd lose us?" Her expression didn't waver. "You would live. They'd never find me again, and the memory of me would fade like light leaving the sky." The air seemed to still. The hum inside my chest faltered, a stuttering heartbeat. "No," I said, the word catching in my throat. "No, Sidra, there has to be another way." Her eyes softened. "Julian, I can't let them take you. You are not meant to be a fugitive from your own planet." "Then let me choose that," I said fiercely. "Let me choose you." Her lips parted, a tremor running through her. "You would give up your world." "I already did the moment I hugged you," I said, smiling through the ache. She laughed then, a sound cracked and luminous. "You are unbearably human. And you love that about me," I said. "I do," she admitted, voice shaking. "More than I should." Another surge rippled through the apartment. The windows glowed blue, and we both knew. The ships were near again. Sidra raised a hand, light forming between her fingers. "If I begin the release, you must not stop me." Sidra, her eyes gleamed with tears, her lumens flickering like candlelight in wind. "Julian, the universe is vast and cruel, but love is the smallest rebellion it cannot erase." The beam of energy outside pulsed once, closer. She stepped forward, pressing her forehead to mine. "If the stars remember us, that will be enough." "No," I whispered. "Not memory, presence, stay." Her glow intensified, gold, white, blinding, and I realized too late that she was pouring every ounce of the resonance through her. "Protecting me." I grabbed her hand, pulling her close. "Then we go together." Her eyes widened, the light around her surging. "Julian, you can't—" But it was too late. The hum roared, light bursting outward like a living sun. For one impossible instant, we were everywhere. 2 heartbeats threaded through the stars, every atom singing the same note, and then silence. The light faded. The room was empty. The hum was gone. But as I stood there in the quiet, something lingered. A warmth behind my ribs, faint but real. Pulse, not mine, hers, Sidra's. And in that heartbeat I understood. She hadn't vanished. She'd become part of everything. The air, the stars, the space between breaths. And when I closed my eyes, the hum returned, soft, steady, infinite. "Our hearth holds." I smiled, tears hot against my cheeks. "Yeah," I whispered. "It does." The city was quiet again. Days had passed, maybe weeks. I wasn't counting. Time had stopped behaving normally. The moment Sidra dissolved into light, the Bureau eventually declared the resonance anomaly neutralized. They filed it under localized energy distortion and moved on. Humans are good at pretending extraordinary things are just malfunctions, but I knew better. Every night I still felt it. The faintest echo, a heartbeat like a whisper under my own. Not constant, not demanding, just there. A quiet reassurance that somewhere in the fabric of the universe she was still alive. The apartment looked the same. Same couch, same clutter, same stubborn ulan plant that still hummed when it rained. But everything carried a trace of her. The air still smelled faintly of ozone and sweetness. The walls still shimmered faintly when the sunlight hit them just right, as though they remembered her glow. I started talking to her sometimes, out of habit. "You'd laugh at this," I told the air one morning, holding up a half-burned pancake. "Still can't make them circular." Silence then, faintly, impossibly, a warmth in my chest like laughter without sound. She was laughing. I could feel it. The first time it happened, I froze, thinking I was losing my mind. But it came again days later when I stood under the stars, missing her so hard it hurt. The air shimmered just slightly, and I felt her, brief, soft, loving. She hadn't vanished. She had transcended. The resonance she released hadn't destroyed her. It had made her one with everything. The atmosphere, the starlight, the pulse of life itself. She'd become what her people called the hearth eternal, the energy of connection that outlives form. That night, as I watched the city lights flicker like constellations pretending to be stars, I heard her voice again, not in my ears but in my chest. "Julian." I closed my eyes, smiling through the ache. "You're late." "I made coffee." "I can feel it," she whispered. Warm, sweet. My throat tightened. "You found a way back." "Not back," she said gently. "Through. The resonance doesn't end, it expands." "I am not gone, Julian. I am woven into the hearth we built." Tears blurred my vision. "It's not the same," I said. "I can't touch." She finished for me. "Perhaps not. But every heartbeat, every breath you take, I am there. You taught me that love is not confined to matter." The stars shimmered above, and I could almost see her shape in their light. Faint gold, radiant and calm. "What happens now?" I asked softly. "Now," she said, "you live. And I will live through you. Every kindness you offer, every laugh, every act of wonder, it will echo through the bond." I laughed weakly, brushing tears away. "You always did make things sound poetic." "Your people taught me that," she said. "You called it love." The warmth in my chest deepened, steady, rhythmic. A heartbeat that wasn't mine but belonged nowhere else. "I miss you," I whispered. "I am here," she said simply. "Always." The wind stirred, carrying the scent of rain and electricity. Somewhere a streetlight flickered to gold. The hum beneath my ribs steadied. For a moment I felt her hand, warm, strong, certain, press over my heart. "Our hearth holds," she said, and as I looked up at the night sky, I finally understood what she meant all along. The hearth wasn't the apartment. It wasn't the bond. It wasn't even us. It was the universe itself, the pulse of connection that defied time, distance, and loss, the light between worlds, the love that remembers, the hearth eternal.